If you want to be a great software engineer, there are 3 skills you must have. And I'm not talking about coding or languages or anything technical. I'm talking about mindset skills that set you apart from the average developer. And these skills don't go hand in hand with experience. I've met junior developers that are great engineers because they have these skills. And I've also known senior developers that are really just mediocre because they don't have these skills. So, what are these skills that make a great engineer? Well, the first one is problem solving. And that might seem obvious because at the core of software engineering, we're solving problems. But regardless, in order to be great at software engineering, you have to be great at problem solving. Luckily, problem solving is a skill. And that means, like any other skill, you can get better at it. You can improve your skill by practicing it. So if you want to get better at problem solving, try this. The next time you have a project or even just any other type of problem that you're going to have to work through, actually write down what your solution is, like what the end goal is you want to get to and the steps you're going to take to get to it. Then work on the project or your problem just like you normally would. But then after you're done, reflect on what you did and how it compared to your original plan. Were there any unforeseen problems that you should have been able to predict ahead of time? Was the end goal actually what solved the problem? Was the end goal that you finished how you envisioned it from the beginning? And if not, why was it different? Is it better that it's different, or was your original plan better and you just didn't manage to get to that point? By going through and looking at the differences between how you originally planned to get to the end and its result and how you actually got to the end and its result, that will allow you to get better the next time you go and solve a problem. The nice thing about writing this stuff down is you can go back and revisit all of your previous ones and look for patterns. Now you can, once you've done this a bunch of times, you can look to see, are there common things that you're missing on a regular basis? If so, make an active, concerted effort to include that when you're problem solving in the future. Or maybe instead you have a problem that the solution you're coming up with at the beginning doesn't meet the requirements and you find that out pretty late in the process. In that case, be more thorough with coming up with a solution to begin with. If you do these steps, you'll get better because you're going to be evaluating your own progress and coming up with ways to get better over time. The second skill that makes a great engineer is curiosity, and that means you're always looking to learn more. Now, technology is changing at breakneck speeds. Just look at web development alone, for instance. When I was in college, the way to make a dynamic website was to use something called CGI, which meant you ran scripts inside of a server. When you made a request to a server, it called a script and it returned back an output. Fast forward over the last 25 years, and that's evolved into an entirely new language called PHP, which was a huge change over CGI. Then we gained single page applications once JavaScript matured enough in the browser to be able to support that. We've seen the rise of React and Node.js and Next.js. And nowadays we have a ton of other options as well. In other words, keeping up with the norms of the industry is just a basic requirement. You can't keep writing CGI scripts in 2025. No one's gonna want that. But this video isn't about basic requirements. It's about being a great engineer. And being great means being really curious about how things work. You don't need to be an expert in everything or a really deep expert in whatever you're working on. But you do need to have that curiosity to want to learn more, to go a little bit deeper or a little bit wider, and being able to pick up new things, because every little bit of extra information you seek out and you discover, that will potentially help you with your problem solving in the future. And your curiosity and your knowledge can also inspire other people to become more curious and to learn more as well. I once worked with a dev who loved Vue.js. I mean, that was like his passion. He didn't just love talking about all the features he loved about Vue. He also loved talking about just how Vue itself was written using JavaScript getters and setters to automatically propagate changes to listening components. And his just passion and how much he's excited by it, that got me to look into it as well. And even though I'm not like a huge Vue enthusiast, learning about these getters and setters and seeing them work in a really cool, innovative way, that gives another tool in my toolbox for anytime I'm working in JavaScript. And, it's something that I could pull out if I run into a situation where that makes sense. So how can you improve your own curiosity? Well, really, it's just about asking questions. Anytime you run into a situation where you don't know what's going on, you should be asking, why don't I understand how this works? How does this work? Why does it do this? You should be mindfully paying attention while you're working on projects, looking for those moments of uncertainty, or maybe you're doing something and you realize that whatever you're working with kind of has this magical component to you because you don't know how it works. Rather than just accepting, oh, that's just magic and it automatically works, ask yourself, what does it do? How does that work? Dig deeper into it and figure things out. Maybe you realize, oh, I don't even know how an href in the browser, what it does under the hood to trigger a new page down the line. Maybe start getting into the details of, DOM events and how those propagate up and how those can be caught. And you learn all of a sudden a lot more about JavaScript and browsers and front-end development. Maybe, again, you just learn about the DOM class list property on the DOM node. And you realize, oh, well, if there's this one property here, what other properties are available and what can they do? Hop on to, like MDN and quickly scan documentation, see if there's any cool properties that maybe you didn't know about that look interesting, and read up on them real fast. Another option is, subscribe to tech newsletters. And when you get them, scan through them. Anything that catches your eye, looks cool, dig deeper into it. If you hear about a new framework or a new language, at least pull up the website and see what are they selling as their reasons to use it. So you can at least have a jumping off point. So if you start seeing it again, or someone starts talking to you about it, at least the high level details and you can start adding more information. And that gives you a little better of idea of, how does this new thing work? How is it different from what I already know? And remember, being curious is a skill you can use anywhere, not just for tech related stuff. Anytime you're in a situation where you're not sure how something works, try to find out. Try to expand your curiosity everywhere, because cross-domain knowledge is also very useful. It's good to have knowledge in other domains that you can apply to your job. Finally, the last skill for a great engineer is what I like to call bias towards action. And what that simply means is you're taking initiative. You don't have to be told to do something that either needs to be done or should be done. Great engineers don't have to wait around for a Jira ticket to get something done. If they notice there's a small bug that can be fixed very easily, they just go ahead and fix it. Do they realize that the current architecture they're working in can be improved and maybe double performance? Well, then they go ahead and put together a quick proposal and talk to stakeholders to figure out, can we do this? And then try to lead the project to get it done. I mean, don't overdo it. Obviously, use common sense. Don't go and overhaul an entire system just because you think that it should be improved. I've certainly seen cases where a 3-line bug fix suddenly comes back as like a 1,000-line multi-file merge request because the person wanted to, didn't like the style of the file. Avoid that. But what I mean by bias towards action is bias towards meaningful action that actually provides value, more value than the effort that was put in. In general, the best engineers I've worked with have this bias towards action. And it's especially important if you have any aspirations to be like an entrepreneur or a solopreneur, because in those situations, if you're trying to build your own thing, there is nobody telling you to do the work. You have to be willing to do the work every single day. And having this bias towards action means you're actually going to be showing up and doing the work because you're able to propel yourself forward. But even as an employee, it's a super great skill to have, because taking initiative is seen as a leadership quality. It's seen as something that will get you promotable, get you up to senior dev. It's always recognized when people take initiative. So how do you foster this in yourself? How do you improve on this? Well, I think there's only really one way, and that's to actually start doing it. When you're going through code, if you see something that could be nudged a little bit and improve things, go ahead and do it, especially if it's a small effort, high reward. See a small bug fix it. If you notice something that could be improved, maybe if it's going to be too much work, well, then talk to whoever would be the stakeholder, whether that's, a more senior level dev or the team lead or, product owner, whatever it happens to be. So, pitch that as an idea for something to be improved and explain why it'd be better to improve it, and then offer yourself to lead the project. The more you push yourself to take action, the more automatic it becomes and the easier it is to do. And the more automatic just doing things becomes, the more doors will open for you. It's as simple as that. So there you have it. Those are the 3 skills that I think are critical for any great software engineer. You have to have great problem-solving skills, you need to be curious, and you need to be willing to just jump in and do things, a bias towards action. I hope you found this video informative and useful, and if you have any comments about what I just said, leave them down below. If you wouldn't mind, please subscribe to my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.